G'day guys, Aztech Innovations here. We are getting quite a few more people purchase gel blasters worldwide. They will be shipped out to you in a certain way, so we thought we'd put together a video basically to show you guys how to put them together properly. It is crucial they go together a certain way so that you get the most out of it. Last thing we want is for you to buy an absolute beast and accidentally put it together incorrectly and have problems. So without further ado, this is exactly how you're going to get your package in the mail. You'll get a nice Chimera box, Aztech Innovations on it, and it'll come like so. Whatever colour you've chose, whether it be an MK47, ARP variant or an M4 variant. Lift this piece out and you'll have your upper and all the pieces, mag release, etc., receiver pins and springs and whatnot. So it can be pretty confusing when you open it and you see all these different screws and stuff. So doing this video should help you guys along with assembling your gel blaster. So without further ado, let's get the upper assembled and we'll start from there. So what you want to do is take out your upper. Now if you've ordered a handguard, you'll get either a long or a short variant of an Aztech handguard. But what you will need to do is basically install an octopus adapter, and this will suit your T-piece. So the Aztech Innovations T-piece goes in one way. So as you can see, it's one of these line up, so that basically stops the T-piece from turning. So when it is in your receiver, your mag alignment stays true. So what you want to do is, if you have the octopus facing towards yourself, with the thread facing towards you, it is the screw all the way on the right. So you'll see 3 holes there. You basically want it all the way on the right. And what that'll do is that'll basically sit in the receiver like so. And that'll keep your T-piece where it needs to be. You'll also have your receiver adapter. That goes on first. And then you'll take your threaded adapter, which has these notches in it for an armourer's wrench. If you happen to have one, it makes things a little bit easier. If not, it's not needed. Thread it on. It should thread on nice and easy. If it doesn't, just reverse it until you feel it click and then screw it down. Last thing you want to do is basically thread it. Then on your handguard, if you've ordered one of these, you'll have the long thread and the short thread. So the long thread is the side that you will screw, because you'll notice even with it all the way tight, you'll have that little bit of play. That's completely normal until your handguard is threaded down. So you'll thread it all the way down, like so. You can see that's hand tight, that's not going anywhere, that's completely locked into place. So that is essentially your upper. And once we're finished, we'll install our spring, install it in like so, and you can see it keeps it straight, minimal play there. So once that's up against the gearbox, that's where it's going to sit. Then you'll have your adapter for the end of your handguard. That basically keeps your inner barrel alignment true as well. So you can see you don't need an outer barrel on the outside of it. You can just run your inner barrel because it is all stabilized up through the front and through the octopus adapter. You can, however, add an outer barrel if that's what suits you and remove the front end. It's completely up to you. But on the front here, you can screw in a muzzle tech. So an Aztech hop up that'll screw straight onto the front once you trim it down to about 12 mil protruding out the front. So we'll move on to the receiver, as that is the upper complete. Now you will have your mag well, or the front. Then you will have the rear of the receiver. And you have your trigger guard. So you will have a bunch of screws which were in that snap lock bag at the bottom. And take out all your little parts inside the Chimera box. which is your mag release and fire select. So you'll notice that in this snap lock bag, just be careful because there is little tiny grub screws in here, so you've got to be careful. That's your spring for your mag release. These are your receiver pins, your main receiver pins for the upper of the handguard and for your gearbox alignment. Then you have your center pin, this one here. So all these screws are basically, you know, fit to what they go to. So you'll notice that, you know, certain screws won't fit in the fire select, etc. So you will just have to sort of feel around a little bit, but you will have longer screws. You'll have essentially 3 longer screws. Then you'll have 2 shorter screws and 1 medium. And these are for the main screws for your receiver. So what we basically want to do is get your mag well together. Now it can be a little bit fiddly until you get it screwed together. Once it's screwed together, it is extremely solid. Just hold it at the front there like so. Take one of your longer screws, and I believe it's a 2.5 mil Allen key. Screw them down like so, and that front is together. Take another longer one, screw it in like so, and then at the top of your mag well here. So they're your 3 longer screws. And then you want to take your medium screw and straight through your trigger guard there. Then you want to take your 2 shorter ones and they go at the rear of the receiver. So as you can see, I just felt it lock up a little bit there. So all I'm going to do is reverse it and basically screw it down. Now that's screwed in. Same thing again, I felt it lock a little bit, so reverse it, screw it back in. Now I do recommend using blue Loctite when you do this for the final assembly. I'm not putting it on just yet because this one is being sent off. So I would recommend some blue Loctite. Don't use red or purple. Red's too strong, purple will basically vibrate apart. From there, your receiver will slide together like so. So you'll see that there is a track here on both sides. And what you want to do is you want to slide it in from the bottom, or your mag well in from the top. Take your trigger guard, and that literally goes in one way. So as you can see, you can't put it in incorrect. Put it in like so, and then you'll see these little grub screws. So these little grub screws here go in through the side, and they are, you will need a 1.3 mil Allen key for this. Once again, if you feel it lock up, line it up. As you can see, it just locked up, so I just lifted up the plate ever so slightly, and then you'll feel it screw all the way down. Same thing again. Feel that go all the way down till you feel it tighten up. I'm not going to bother repeating the process on the other side, just repeat the process on all 4 sides, and that is good to go. That is obviously your center receiver pin, which we'll put through once the gearbox is in. So what we're going to do now is assemble our mag release. So this one can be a little bit tricky. It is very, very different to what you're sort of used to, and it is easier to do once you've got your gearbox in. But before the gearbox is in, I just want to show you guys this little part here is for your quick release. So you can see that sort of lines up through where your gearbox would actually sit. So you put your mag release through there, locking in with that one, and through your gearbox, which will align it. So once it's all together, you will have your quick release at the front. So when you're shooting, you can just tap the front and it will release your mag. So next step we're going to be doing is installing this beautiful DSG. So this is a full Aztech build full Aztech components, tapetless, Apache, everything in it. Optical V2 Leviathan, and it's all powered by the Warhead brushless motor. So basically you want to get your selector plate lined up with your fire select hole on your gearbox. Now what you want to do is you want that pointy end to be, if I turn it around, you want this pointy end of the fire select gear to be facing this side of the tappet, and you can see here, so as it sort of rotates it pushes that selector plate back and forth. So you do need to hold that in there while you install. So you can see it's got room for the Dean's cable, it's got room for everything in there. Basically you want to pull down these cables, make sure they're not getting in the way, that you're not, you know, crunching them or causing any damage to them as you're installing. It should all slot through nicely, and then essentially your gearbox is in. And that was a very smooth transition. There was no trying to squeeze it and force it in. It is all designed to fit very, very smoothly. So because this is a split gearbox, I generally like to sort of lock it in place. Now this part, there we go, just sort of jiggle things around because it may feel like it's not actually going to fit. So now I've just sort of got it held in place while I take my main receiver pin, and make sure that when you put it through here that there is no cable inside the gearbox protruding through, because if you put this through and the Leviathan cable happens to be protruding and you tap it, you can damage the Leviathan. If we've built this for you, then that'll already be out of the way. That cable management will have already been done. So we're going to slide it through like so, and now alright, so we'll install the fire select. So as you already seen, we've installed that actual fire select gear. So now it's time to install the fire selector itself. So take your screw, place it through like so. You should see it stick out just on the end there, and you'll see a hole in the bottom there. So what you want to do is you want to take the little ball and spring like so, and then sort of hold it in place. You'll feel it all sort of like slot into place like a puzzle, and then basically just tighten it down. Be careful that when you're tightening all of these that everything is seated properly before you apply any sort of torque to it. Very, very easy to strip. So now you'll see that the selector plate is moving backwards and forth. So that is now installed. So the next step for us is going to be the mag release. So this is your quick mag release. You'll see the little piece comes with like it's like a circle on one side, same on the other, and that's basically so that it slots together and sits in place like so. Then you basically want to line it up with your mag release through there. This is a little bit tricky. It is the trickiest part to assembling this receiver, and slide it through. So as you can see, we set the two pieces, we slid it above the notch on the gearbox for where your mag release normally goes, and then we sort of pulled it all together with the actual mag release itself. Put your spring on, take your mag release button, and I believe it is a 1.5mm Allen key you'll need for this one. Oh, okay. Where is it? There it is. So the 1.3, that's my bad. So basically screw it in, 1.3mm Allen key, and there's your mag release. So as you can see, that mag release is working now, and that's your quick release. So when you're shooting, you can tap the front and away you go. Now we are going to, so as you can see, this basically just needs terminal soldered on. That's completely fine. Make sure we put that back through. Hold this receiver pin on the other side. That is a 2.5 mil Allen key, just to sort of keep it there from coming out. Now we are going to install the grip next, which is the single most crucial part to the reliability and function of this blaster. So as you can see, we've got a beautiful Aztech grip here. These are extremely strong. Going to last you a lifetime when you buy one of these. CNC base. As you can see, we've used hot glue to keep the motor depth correct. And it will come with another snap lock bag that'll essentially have these two screws in it, these two screws in it, and 4 of these screws, which are basically for your plate. So what I like to do is when you get it, say yours has just arrived, I like to essentially take your plate, take one of your screws, one of the flathead screws, take your 2 mil Allen key, screw it in at the top there, like so. You don't want to put these ones in just yet, not until you've installed the motor. So now we've got the plate on, one at the top, one at the top. I am, however, going to take one plate off just so you guys can see the cable management a little bit easier. Generally I wouldn't do this with the plate off, but just to make it easier for you guys to see what we're actually doing. Once again, the only grip you can do that with. We are going to do our cable management. So as you can see, the negative is on the right side. So if we have the gearbox, you know, the right side of the receiver or the mag release side of the blaster sitting upright, you'll see your negative is on my right, positive is on my left. Now on the grip, you see the right and you'll see the left, and then the main motor shaft hole. So basically you want to put, that wire will fit through like so, and then the positive through the left side, so left and left, right is right. Run your grip down like so. Now you want to take the 2 longer button head screws and you want to take a Phillips. It is easier if you use a magnetized Phillips, it stays on there. And now you'll see where I'm screwing. So you only need the 2, you don't need to put all 4 screws in. You can do if you want, it's not detrimental to the blaster to use 2. So that's one side, don't crank it down tight just yet. And then that is, so you can see they're opposite to each other. So you got one on the bottom, one on the top, one's on the right, one's on the left. So they are opposite to each other, so they're sort of pinning down each side of the grip. So now we want to crank these down as tight as you can until they won't turn anymore. So the last thing you want is for these to come loose on you, and if they're nice and tight, the grip helps keep them in without Loctite. So now what we want to do is cable management. So with a Leviathan in particular here, because of the length of the cables and how hard the cables are, what we do is generally you would run, you know, your positive on the left here, so you'd have your positive of your motor to the left to match the positive on the left. But because of the way that we have the cable management, we basically need to run the negative on the back here. So even though your negative's on the right, on the motor, you'll spin the motor and have your negative on the left, and you'll see why in a second, and your positive off to the right, even though it comes through on the left side of the grip. So you want to push the positive down away from that motor hole where your pinion's going to be traveling through in a second. So you can see how I'm sort of holding that wire into those 2 channels. So you'll see there's a channel here, that's for your positive, and another channel here, that's for your negative. Let me see if I can get a better. So you can see how it's grooved out, and they're for your cables. So your wires need to be one in each one to basically not push your motor on a funny angle, so that once you've installed it, your motor has free play. So we'll resume what we were doing. So we've got the positive here on the right, negative here on the left. Make sure it's out the way. Take your motor and we'll put the positive up through the back, because what we're going to do, so you can see how that motor now moves nicely. If I, just as an example, if I have these cables not in their channels, watch what happens. I can't move this motor up and down, it becomes stuck and doesn't fit. It actually does fit, it just needs proper cable management. So if I put the wire back here, I pull that negative back into that channel, now I have proper motor movement. And you see I didn't even touch the motor, it just fell down into the grip, which is exactly what we're looking for. And now, when you're putting these on too, just be careful, don't really ply them real hard, because you can snap the motor tabs. It's the last thing you want to do. And now, same thing on the other side, just wrap your wire around, connect it to your motor like so, push it down. I generally like to use like some needle nose pliers, but this one's already been fitted before, so it's a little bit easier. So you can see now that we've got it all connected, we still have motor movement up and down. Take your base plate, make sure it's sitting with the wires, that you're not just, that you're not just crushing the wires. The wires want to sit either side of this base plate. You only want the motor in the middle, no wires. So sort of jimmy it in place, push it down, and what you want to look for is if I let go of this base plate wants to move back up. So that means the motor's not being forced in any position that it essentially doesn't want to be. Take your button head screws, little 2mm, drop them down, hold your base plate nice and firm, take your 2mm Allen key, and your first time you're going to have to push in a little bit because it is a fine thread. So you're going to have to push in a little bit, but then it will bite, and then crank it down. Don't go overly tight with it, just nice and firm. Same thing on this side. Like I said, make sure that your 2mm is seated in place before you do it. And as you can see now, that base plate is on nice and firm. So the next thing you want to do is basically just make sure that your motor does have power. So you can hear that burp, that buzz. You can hear it sounds very nice, very crispy. So right now this is in semi, but we'll get to program it later. So now we know that motor's sitting correctly. Everything's sitting how we need it to sit. So now you can go ahead and install your base plate, which I'm not going to do because I have to pull this apart to send it off. But same thing again, take your flat screws, screw them in, top and bottom, same thing on the other side. So you got your screw on the bottom as well. And that just screws all the way through your grip and into your base plate as well. So that is done there. The last thing we need to do now is assemble our upper and put the finishing touches in on our screws. So we've already assembled that upper earlier, as you've seen. What I like to do is essentially have the T-piece hanging back here, turn the blaster on this side. Now normally you wouldn't have these cables in the way. At the moment I do, so I'm just going to tuck them out the way so that we don't pinch them or damage them in any way, shape or form. Now hold the barrel, sit it. You want to make sure that that little notch, that little collar, has that bit that sticks out. That goes inside your gearbox. You can see that's not sitting right. Just give it a bit of a jiggle, slots in place. Now what you want to do is slide your upper on. And then slide it all the way back. Hold it down like so. Put your front receiver pin through, and that is your upper essentially on. As you can see, everything lines up nicely, so you want to take your other screw. You want to take your 2.5, screw that in like so. Like I said, use blue Loctite for all of this because it will vibrate apart, especially on crazy DSGs like this. It will come apart very, very quickly. So from there you can install your charging handle, your buttstock. Just remember, if you are installing a buffer tube, that you do have these wires here hanging out the back. What you want to do is essentially bend it up and in, one at a time. So that may need to be twisted because you can see that the positive is spliced from factory. So I generally like to turn it on its side, push it up and in. Now because you guys are watching, this one's being a bit tight. It's not normally that tight. So now you can see that that is in like so. So when you put your buffer tube screw in, just make sure that you're not screwing into these wires. You can sort of move your buffer tube screw around and screw it in, but we'll leave that for you guys because different people are going to use different buffer tubes, so there's no point sort of showing you guys how to do that. Plus there's plenty of brilliant airsoft techs showing you guys all of that on YouTube. So as you can see now, because we've got that spring on it, that T-piece is now sitting nicely. Everything is nice and parallel with itself. Everything's nice and level. And from there you can go ahead and install the rest of your receiver screws. So essentially install your other screw for your center receiver. Screw that all the way down to blue Loctite, that's a 1.5. And that, my friends, is how you install and put together your Aztech gearbox into your Aztech receiver. We hope this video helps you guys, and we hope you guys enjoy your blasters. Any questions, any concerns, we are going to be making a Facebook group, basically Aztech Innovations Facebook users group, where you can jump on board. Everyone who's running Aztech stuff can ask questions, get help, build ideas, everything that you guys need to basically, you know, run all your Aztech domination on the field. Thanks guys.